All right, welcome everybody. This is Manhattan Community Board One's Executive Committee. I am Tammy Meltzer, the chair. Thank you all for being here. We're starting officially at 6:07. We have a robust but hopefully succinct meeting tonight. We're going to start with our Community District 1 demographic update. It's by our fellow James Wilson Shutter from the Fund for the City of New York. So welcome, James. And you will all get to see James when we are more in person, and that will not be till after April 15th. So James, take it away.
Cool. Wonderful. Thank you very much. So very happy to present tonight the demographics report. I'm sorry, I'm still figuring out the sharing feature. So just give me a sec. I've got the PowerPoint pulled up. Wonderful. Can everyone see?
Yeah.
Loading up now, James.
All right, thanks.
Okay, we have your screen now.
Perfect. Thank you. So it's nice to meet many of you for the first time. And thanks for coming by and listening to my presentation. So I've gone through a lot of the 2020 census demographics information and kind of updated what's currently there on the website. Now, this is very pertinent, at least in my opinion, because a lot's changed in the district since 2000 and 2010. The district's become a lot more family oriented, and there's a lot of things that need to be looked at in regards to what's happening within the district, who's living in the district, and what general trends are going on. Now, thankfully, I did this with the help of Diana, so thank you very much for your help, Diana. And if you have any questions about this, do please feel free to reach out to me or Diana after the presentation, and I am very much open for questions after the presentation. That being said, let's just take a bit of a glossary view at what's going on within CB1. So in comparison to all of the other community boards, Manhattan CB1 has grown just tremendously over the past 10 years. This is a map showing the growth within the past 10 years from 2010 to 2020 and how much of a percentage the population has changed. Just general growth trends. There's a lot more people, there's a lot more youth, there's a lot more housing, but the growth hasn't been even throughout the district. Some neighborhoods grew a lot faster than others. And additionally, I should say this before we get into a bit more of the presentation, that COVID-19 has had a major impact. The census of 2020 was taken during COVID when a lot of people were leaving the city. So this doesn't accurately reflect some of the trends that were happening initially right before COVID and some of the numbers that may have been possible had COVID not been a factor. Now, just looking at a general map of how everything's distributed, most of the growth within Manhattan is happening at the southern end. A lot of it is concentrated within Community Board 1. While there are other districts that grew almost as fast, CB1 greatly outpaces that of Manhattan generally, as well as most other areas, especially looking at the general New York trends. CB1 is just amazingly fast growing. Now, for the report, it's also important to talk about what methodology was used and how the data was actually found, presented, and just generally collected. So in order to formulate a basis, as work like this has been done before for the community board by previous planning fellows, I took a look at previous demographics reports that had been done, extracted some information about them, figured out what were some of the previously important features within the district, how they impacted the district, and determined some of the standout features for the city overall, while also looking at other information such as the census. As far as the data collection and analysis, all of the data used was completely accurate. It's all from the census. So thankfully, because the 2020 census provides a count for every person as close as they can get head by head, thankfully, we have very accurate information for the data. Through the data, I made some graphs in R, and examine some of the unique standout characteristics of Community Board 1, especially in comparison to New York City, in order to see what the district needs in comparison to what it previously needed and how needs might change, not just within the district, but compared to the city as a whole. This also is spread out through the maps as well as the graphs. Now, writing up the report and comparisons to other CBs, a lot of the report, there is going to be a written report posted on the website if you want any more depth on this. A lot of the report examines a lot of the census data within the context of community boards as well as community districts, and looks at what's specifically unique regarding that. There are general overviews of a lot of trends, and anything you could be interested in demographics-wise is within the report. If you have any questions about it, again, please don't hesitate to email me. Now, let's get into some of the meat and potatoes of the presentation, specifically what's happening in regards to people and housing. So these are just some basic graphs of how the community board has grown since 2010. So as of 2020, the community board is sitting at nearly 80,000 residents. Again, this is impacted by COVID. So potentially, had COVID not been a factor, the district could have hit 80,000 residents. This makes it the second fastest growing district within all of the city, second only to Brooklyn's CD2. That's an amazing standout feature because it honestly means that you're as likely to run into someone with a stroller and a child as you are to a tourist within the district. Additionally, it greatly outpaces Manhattan and New York City overall, which needs to be reflected in things such as schools and other community facilities, which it hasn't been so far. With this massive increase in population, a lot of the specifics at the city level need to be moved in regards to what's happening in the district. Things like zoning, things like schools, things like healthcare services. Now, how's it growing for actual kids? This is one of the biggest things that's happening within the district. It's that within the district, 60%, the population of children under 18 has grown by 60%, which is insanity. It's double the next fastest growing district and is still actually the second fastest growing in New York, only behind by less than a percentage point. This means that it's greatly outpacing New York and Manhattan, where New York only gained about 1% on their child population, and Manhattan actually lost a lot of its under 18 population, whereas CD1 is greatly outpaced both of those. It's quite interesting to look at just because I know that there was a previous 2013 report done looking at schools, but it greatly showcases the needs of the community. If you look at things like large event spaces, if you look at things that people keep trying to make in the community, a lot of it doesn't fit sort of the family-friendly atmosphere that has been growing and has been a trend within the community board. Additionally, housing has grown tremendously within the community board as well. Housing unit-wise, it was almost the fastest growing in Manhattan. It was only beaten out by one other district within the borough. And even then, it grew exponentially. If you just look at an area like the financial district, and you look at the skyline from 2000 to 2020, it's clearly visible. This also should be reflected within a lot of what goes into development within the district. There are a lot of standout housing features, and as we can also see, this is primarily within the financial district, then South Seaport, as well as within Battery Park City. A lot of that growth over the past 10 years has been within those neighborhoods, housing-wise, but it's not evenly spread out throughout Manhattan as well. Just generally, it's very uniquely in Community District 1. It's also a bit of an argument as to why more facilities need to be made for people within the district. With that being said, let's move on to talk about neighborhoods in specific. So This chart here briefly goes over how much each neighborhood within Community District 1 has grown since 2010. Tribeca grew by around 15%, Battery Park City grew by over 20%, South Seaport nearly 40%, Financial District almost 50%. These are massive numbers, but it very much shows how growth hasn't been evenly distributed within the district. The bulk of it happening with the Financial District and the Civic Center or South Seaport areas. Just looking at changes in population, these are the raw population numbers. We can see just how much areas have grown. Tribeca used to be the most populated area of the district, but it's since been taken over by the Financial District. These trends help us to see what sort of zoning and analysis is needed going forward. In areas like Tribeca, a lot of the zoning is a lot lower level than in the Financial District. You don't have as much FAR that you can squeeze out of buildings. A lot of the buildings are a lot older. Whereas in the Financial District, it's still ripe for growth. There's still a lot of development happening within the area. There's a lot of new buildings that are going up, that are being finished, that are still opening. And it's very much an area that will probably keep growing as we move into 2030 and looking forward. A lot of the current zoning needs to accommodate this, and that's why it's being briefly mentioned here. Additionally, if we look at areas like Battery Park City and South Seaport and the Civic Center, they're still growing, but there haven't been any major changes in regards to those. The South Seaport and Civic Center is growing second fastest in regards to just per capita numbers to the Financial District and should be accounted for. Now, looking at demographics, some points that weren't previously mentioned in fellows reports, but that I thought might be interesting as I hear these brought up at different community board meetings fairly regularly, are the ethnicities and races within Manhattan Community Board 1, as well as the age of a lot of the people who live within the district. So in regards to the racial distribution, it's changed quite a lot. It's gotten a lot more diverse, used to be a decent bit wider, but the Asian population has grown, Black population has grown, the Native American population has grown, and specifically 2 or more races, that population has grown tremendously. Additionally, when we look at age, a lot of the district has become very family oriented. The median age within the district is in their late 30s, early 40s, and this should be reflected by a lot of the facilities being brought in. And it's also seen within the under 18 population growing as fast as it has. Currently, there aren't as many resources to accommodate this age group as I would have liked to see, or I think most people here would like to see, and they aren't being accommodated as well as they could be. Within the district, there is also a sizable population of people who are of retirement age, and there are a lot of things that hinder that currently within the district, specifically in regards to cobblestone streets. But just generally, the age of the district has been trending a little bit in the family region, with most people within the district being between 20 and 50, with the vast majority being in their majority and median being within late 30s, early 40s. Now, another important point to bring up in regards to what's happening within the district is talking about COVID-19 and residential vacancies. So as I'm sure everyone knows, COVID-19 impacted New York tremendously. A lot of people moved out, some moved in, but thankfully a lot have moved back since then. Within the district itself, unfortunately, it did have a lot of vacant units as of 2020. It was the second highest vacancy rate in regards to just vacant units, which isn't great. As I'm sure a lot of people know, Manhattan lost a large amount of its population when compared to the other boroughs with COVID-19's onset. Now, thankfully, according to a lot of reports done by internal sources such as Scott Stringer in the comptroller's office, a lot of people who had moved out have moved back, about 75%. And if we look at other things, like we look at retail, specifically commercial retail prices, they've stabilized and gone back up to above COVID prices, meaning that as far as commercial retail goes, the district's in a very good spot, as reported by the commercial brokerage firm Newmark Knight Frank. Additionally, private numbers in regards to residential units were looked at by Scott Stringer, the comptroller, and many people have moved back. Yeah, what's up, Joe? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I saw the raised hand. Perfect. In regards to that though, with all of the vacant units within CB1, it does show that there still do need to be some things that can be fixed. Also, one thing to be noted is that while there are a lot of vacant units, there's still a lot of development happening and people who are moving in and people who are moving back. Because there's so much development, there's still a lot of newer buildings that have yet to be filled up by residents, which leaves it with a bit of a higher vacancy rate. So while it does have a fairly high vacancy rate, second highest in the city, unfortunately, there are a lot of things being done, and it doesn't need to be taken just as is. It should be taken with a grain of salt due to how COVID-19 impacted the 2020 census and a lot of the information surrounding demographics. Now, with that being said, thankfully, we aren't Manhattan's Community District 5. While we are the second highest in the city, we see that it's a common trend for a lot of the Manhattan districts to have vacancies. As we can see here, top one's all Manhattan, and we're right in that normal range. So while, yes, we might have the one of the higher vacancy rates as of 2020, it's not much worse than a lot of the other Manhattan districts, and it's not a massive standout feature as it was for Community District 5, unfortunately for them. Now, with that being said, just some closing thoughts before we get to the questions. Thank you all for listening, and thanks for going through the report with me. But in regards to demographics, there has been a lot of change that's been going on since 2010, and a lot of the features that were created initially in 2010 and a lot of the zoning specifically within the district does not necessarily account for what's happening right now. I'm doing a zoning analysis after this. That's my next project for the community board. And specifically just looking at a lot of the zoning, it hasn't changed much since 1998. If you look at the, there have been new developments such as looking at the South Seaport specific special district, which have changed as of mid 2010s, but generally the district is primarily in antiquated zoning that is not reflective of many of the new demographic changes that have been happening. We look at age groups. They've changed tremendously. There's a lot of large spaces. There used to be a major banking population down here. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it's moved past that as a district, and a lot of what's happening right now needs to be thought of and accommodated for. With that being said, though, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I expect hands to be flying. I do know I'm going to try and catch them in the order that I saw them. Justine, your hand's been up since I think he said the word go. So you go first, followed by Pat Moore, Jill Goodkind, Rosa, and Mariama.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a question before you started. And I guess this is great. This is a great presentation. And I guess my questions are focused on the empty apartments. My question, I guess, is based on, were you able to come up with information about financial demographics and whether there's affordable housing? You know, I know you didn't talk about it, but you have those details. Affordable housing units that are available from 2010 to now, owner-occupied units in each part of Community Board 1, stuff like that. Is that information that you have and could get?
So unfortunately, there's no information in the census in regards to affordability. I mean, there is, but most of the information that I went over is just pure numbers. A lot of the stuff from the American Community Survey, which is from 2019, does have a little bit in regards to differences between owner occupied and renters, but all of this is, combines both, but all the housing data within the presentation combines both owner occupied and rental units.
So it hasn't been flushed out. Because, yeah, I guess I've seen,
Yeah.
I see Tammy shaking her head. I've seen the 2019 numbers too. I want to know what 2020 is. But okay, thank you. That was my
No,
biggest
I'm sorry,
question.
the 2020 census, American Community Survey, I think that's being published right now. Not all of it's up though, at least when I was doing the report. Much of this is from the 2020 census, which due to being so broad, isn't nearly as deep.
Makes sense. And I guess my question to be going forward is, can we do that deep dive when and if, when the numbers come out?
It depends, Justine. He has a analysis formula that he's working on because this is a long time coming. You know, we worked on this with large venue working groups
Yep.
to take a look at specifically targeting zoning in CB1
Mm-hmm.
because as it relates back to quality of life, we do need another one for affordable housing
We do, yeah.
without a doubt, but that's not in his purview right now. It doesn't
Okay.
mean that it won't be, but I was pretty sure that, you know, the housing committee might have been able to drop that one on. But we'll see.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
on the wish list. We're trying to.
That's a wish list. Yes, that would be a great
Exactly.
wish list. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jill Goodkind, you're next.
First of all, thank you for that amazing presentation. Is it possible to go back to that demographic slide? Because I just want to point some things out and ask you about it in terms of growth, particularly with the growth of people over 55. Because one of the things I've noted just in life experience, and I'm glad that you had broken it down by such small groups, is for the 4 and under. That you'll see, and you see it right here in this graph, that there's a large dropout when kids become kindergarten age. And I think then, if you look at the school age kids, that's under 19 to 5, but then you compare that to the 55 and older group, you're seeing exponential growth in the seniors. And I think in terms of interpreting these numbers, perhaps there can be a focus on that. I know you're focused on saying there's been such a large amount of growth in children, but look at the combination of the 55 plus numbers in comparison to those other 3 groups, and it is exponential.
Thank you very much, Jill, for that. That is a data point that we can certainly take a look at with our final presentation. James,
Thank you.
you good with that?
Yeah, for sure. I can look a bit more into it.
Perfect. Thank you. Pat, Rosa, Mariama, Susan. And Jill, put your hand down, please. Pat,
Tammy,
your headset.
Pat may be having audio issues. I'm just moving her really quick to attendee and then back to see if that fixes it. Let me see. Okay. Pat, you should be back now. See if you can unmute yourself and try talking again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can indeed. Thank
Okay.
you, Pat.
Yeah, because I was talking earlier and nobody was responding. I was wondering. All right. Good evening, everybody. James, thank you. Thank you for the report. Very good, except, and everybody knows what I'm going to say, I saw no information on Greenwich South. We are not part of the financial district. I would like to know separately all of the issues that are going on in Greenwich South.
Greenwich South is included in FIDI, not by our calculations, but by the calculations of how it was set up. So
I get it. And
I hear what you're saying. I recognize what you're saying. Even more important now that Greenwich South is now no longer linked with the rest of FIDI, but in terms of presentation on how we define Greenwich South is included in the FIDI numbers.
Okay, so are we going to be able to do anything, James, to separate out? Do you know what Greenwich South is?
I have a vague idea. I live in the district, so I know the general area.
Okay,
But,
so it is the area between Battery Park City and Zuccotti Park. So we are west of Zuccotti Park and east of Battery Park, east of the highway. And we also are from basically Liberty Street all the way down to, I guess, Lisburger Park.
All right, wonderful. I could try to drop the thing after this.
And just so
Would you mind
you,
emailing me?
just so you understand, I mean, we have very separate issues. We have, first of all, World Trade Center number 5 is going in. We also have 6 working streets, which cause us to have very different issues than they have in the financial district. That's number 1. Number 2, I didn't see I couldn't clearly see, what is the growth of the Black population?
I'm sorry, I'm finding it again. The
It looked
specific
the
numbers,
same.
it went from 3.5% to 4.2% of the district. I've also got the general numbers. Oh shoot, I'm sorry. I've also got the general numbers within the report itself of like pure population numbers.
Great. Well, thank you, James. All Solution, thanks for fixing my audio.
Pat,
Hey,
copy
you're
me
welcome,
when you
Pat.
do that email to James.
I'm sorry, which email?
Thank
We'll talk offline.
exactly. Thank you, Rosa and
Thank you.
Mariama and then Susan.
So I'm sort of a data geek, so that was awesome. Thank you very much for synthesizing that in a way that's way more easy to digest than looking at the raw data, which I have bizarrely done. So I am curious if there's going to be any part of an open space analysis that is going to be sort of, I guess, a sister analysis to this kind of thing, like when you're talking about the resources that we need to sort of plan for based on this and how it affects how our sort of civic services are perhaps not well suited to the population changes that we have in our neighborhood or the trends that we have in our neighborhood. And I don't even know if I said that properly. Do you understand what I'm saying or asking?
Are you essentially asking about like essentially how you're asking for an open space analysis, right? In order to see if we can accurately see how many people are per how much open space.
Yes, yes. I mean, the open space I think is calculated at acres per 1,000 residents, and I I think that if you look at things like if you look at schools, how many seats do we have based on what the population is that we just saw, that like our rate of increase, how much open space or playground space or recreation space do we have for the population trend that you're seeing in your analysis from 2010 to 2020, how many libraries do we have, all of those sort of services that we would anticipate that we need to provide for a growing population, and specifically in different ages, whether it be more of the senior population or more of the younger population or just general population growth overall. How are we keeping up, or what are the sort of the alarm bells that we need to ring in terms of lack of resources based on the growing population?
So
That is,
okay.
go ahead, James.
I was gonna say, so I might be able, so a lot of it sounds honestly like quite a bit of stuff, but I might be able to, if you want, do like one little thing to see how many acres of open space we have per person, if you'd like, or something simple like that.
I'd love that.
Okay.
Thank
That
you.
is perfect. Thank you, Rosa. We know exactly where you're looking for this data for, and we're supportive of it. And we want to make sure that we can do a larger analysis beyond his simple one. So I would love, James, if you can get the simple calculation, and then we'll talk with Diana about a larger open space POPs kind of review. Okay.
Yes, and if
All
we
right.
could also look at that with the anticipated resiliency projects, I'd be super duper curious about that, because that.
Well, that's the hard thing. You can't.
Oh, I know. No, the general one
Yeah.
James talked about, but then afterwards, if he has any extra time available, I feel like that would be like super critical.
Right, but I don't want to include any of the resiliency stuff because it's not a done deal until it's yeah. You don't want to count your chickens before those hatched, and they're not even hatched yet.
Okay.
Tammy, I just want to remind you that there was, and I'm sure Diana, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was not an open space, but a parks. One of the interns did do an analysis of open space and parks, green space, as I recall, not so long ago. So that would be a good starting point to sort of easily bring that up to date.
Yeah, that's right, Alice. And I'll put the link in the chat where you can find all of the previous fellows reports, Rosa, and you can just scan through for the open space and parks ones.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Mariama. Thank you, Rosa, Mariama, and then Susan.
Thank you. Great presentation. I'm too, I'm a numbers weirdo, a geek. So I was into it, but I just wanted for context, maybe for some of the members, not specific to CB1, but the larger census actually was inaccurate. NPR reported on this 7 days ago. I shared the link in the chat with the host. If there's anybody that wants to see that. And also speaking about the buildings that were going up, yes, they're going up, but a number are stalled. Just yesterday, the Tribeca Citizen reported on several addresses within our district that the work is stalled. For example, 360 Broadway, 65 Franklin, 65 West Broadway, 45 Park Place, 317 Broadway. Those are all just yesterday in the Tribeca Citizen. So members are interested in getting a little bit more context.
Yeah. Unfortunately, stalled doesn't mean gone. So if they are scheduled,
yeah, they just haven't had any work done on them in a long time, and they've become eyesores in the community actually. So nobody's sure, nobody's certain as to what's going to happen with them.
Hands down, we have lots of those in the hood. Susan, you're up.
I just wanted to say, Tom, and I don't know whether he worked, Tom Goodkind had done an analysis. Now it may be 4 years old or 5 years old, but he has a lot of the buildings in there. So we don't have to necessarily reinvent the data on the existing old term buildings. It's the new ones that we're concerned about. And to go to Mariama's point just briefly, there's a building that was supposed to be on Broad Street, and the hole is in the ground, and they're not I don't know whether it's stalled or bankrupt. So there are those things as well. Anyway, I just thought that around the housing we didn't need to completely reinvent the wheel. That's all I was saying.
Awesome. Paul Goldstein, and then back to Justine for a second round. And back to Susan if her hand's still up.
Okay, just a couple of quick points. I think some of the data that you're looking for, Rosa, does exist already. They have breakdowns by community board on how much open space is available. So maybe we could try to get that and share that with both you and James. Number two is that I think it would be useful to, when you do further analysis, you've already pointed out that a lot of the percentage population growth is especially going on in FIDI and Seaport. So what services do those growing neighborhoods lack? And how can we fill those needs? I think that's, critical, because if we look at the district as a whole, we do have, decent amounts of open space, but they seem to be mainly, and we have wonderful open spaces at Battery Park City and along Hudson River Park route, and they are great. And a lot of people do take advantage of them, but needless to say, it's a little more challenging for people, especially people who move to FIDI, for example, to, access all those spaces. So, and I know it's not easy to find answers to that, but if we could use this kind of data to help someone like Rosa in her efforts to, identify, we've come up with a potential solution for creating some open space. And I think we should also do that, obviously, when we work on these resiliency projects. That's longer term. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goldstein. As you know, we all want more parks, more open space. I can't hardly ask for it often enough. Early, often, late, often, anytime, often. Justine, your hand is back up.
Thank you. Yep, I'll be quick. So I just wanted to react to what Susan was saying. So Tom Goodkind did do a great report and he did update it, but I think that was in 2018. So Jill and I and the housing subcommittee, we've gone through it, but a lot of those buildings have been lost because 421A or 421G or whatever it is has expired. So we do need a deep dive and we need it to start from scratch, unfortunately, because in Community Board 1, there's still so many buildings and we don't know what stands now as affordable, what's not affordable, what's rental, what's turned to condo or co-op. So anyway, that's all I had to say. So it is important. Sorry. Thank you.
Well, again, I think that kind of goes to the housing market. If you have the access to his original file and
We do.
folder to put what's expired and what has remained, so you know that
Mhm.
some have retained any and what the diminishing return is. So, for example, when we're looking at it, if the city or the authority claims that it is still a viable affordable housing, but the affordable housing is only tied to the person who lives there, then it needs to be marked for that, because basically they don't allow you to put anybody else's name on there. So it's not like it's a permanently affordable. It's only affordable for as long as the person is living there.
I can send it to James and anybody else who wants to.
That's a housing committee project for
keep it
now until
separate.
we find
Okay.
a new intern, because James has. So here's part of why I say that. We had discussed 2 years ago when we started the large venue working group task force, which was done. We took a year to go through and outline the guidelines and concerns we have for quality of life to make a licensing, requests that we want for when they come to us. We have seen that there seems to be no abatement in the amount of large venues that seem to want to be in Community Board 1, but the quality of life impacts seem to be harder every single one that opens. And why is that? Well, the demographics show it's because our extraordinary rise in residential. So then we really need to take a look at how we're zoned, what are the use groups that are allowed in the zones that we have, and whether or not it makes sense to try and change the zoning of any kind in any place, or use groups and things like that. It's a big endeavor, but you need to have the demographics and the numbers, as we all know, to back it all up. So this was the continuing drive that has come from the community board to take a look at the changes in our district, who we really are now versus so different from 20, 30 years ago, and to be able to look at the zoning we have and say, does this fit? Or are we constantly going to be at that point of pulling hair out? And where is a finer, better line? So that's the groundwork that James has been working on. I appreciate everybody who's asked questions and spoken up. We're going to have him share it. This is not the last discussion of this kind that will come related back to the demographics. As you've all brought out, there are really interesting things that need to be studied from this, for the ratio of parks and open space, for the housing, and for our demographics, and for what services we have that serve the people who are here and who are growing. Do we have the right size services and amounts of services? For decades, we argued about more libraries. Okay, we have one in the middle of the island and one on the west side. Is it time? Look at the demographics. Should there be some kind of outpost on the east side, which we advocated for forever? We now have another giant performing arts center opening up. Do we need any more of that? I mean, I think we've had several movie theaters and other things have opened. So we know some of the entertainment type value things, but do we have enough of the services that we need for people? And those are really all good things for us to be looking at to better serve the community. So James, with that, is there any final thoughts you'd like to add before we move on?
Thank you all for letting me present. It was a pleasure speaking to all of you today. And again, please do feel free to reach out. Don't hesitate to reach out. Sorry, let me figure out how to close this.
There we go. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Let's take a look at our agenda tonight. The next thing we have is impaneling of the Conaming Task Force and the Public Restroom Working Group. So the way that the community board bylaws work, you can have a task force. It is impaneled for 1 year and then it has to be renewed. So we have 2 that are coming up. We are taking a look again, as everybody knows from the reports from last month, at our co-naming task force. That'll be headed by Dr. Betty Kay and Alice. So that'll be impaneled starting again, we're going to say starting April 1, looking ahead, simply because it gets you from the end of Q1 into Q1 of next year. For the public restroom working group, we have that up and rolling. It is a collaboration with CB5. And as of February, the Manhattan Borough President's Office would like to be part of it as well. And that is Mimi and Pat who are driving that boat. If you have an interest to be involved in either one, please email the office and we'll get you directed. Public restroom one started last month in its sort of officialness, so it'll go from February to February. Does anybody have any questions for that?
Tammy, I was just curious with the co-naming and yeah, and Betty, I think you'll be a terrific leader. I'm happy to help wherever I can. But I'm just curious, is there who is on this group? I'm only there as like a historic reference, you know, for having done this years ago. But are there people who feel strongly who are going to be on the, you know, do we have identified membership here, or is it?
It's just starting, so let's see who volunteers, who wants to be on it, and who volunteers. That's real. I see Justine's hand up, so it looks like she's volunteering.
No.
Can't we show up to just work on the group and not have to officially be on it?
You can. I do think that, I mean, I leave it to Betty and Alice to have this discussion. I think that it could be done within the transportation committee, if it's much like we used to do some of the small business stuff in LZE. So if it's carved out during a particular time, people can come in and out. Betty, do you have thoughts on that?
I just wanted to say, because as long as we're virtual, I mean, I'm more than willing. I go try to get to all the meetings, so I'm more than willing to help. But I don't want to officially be on it, because if we decide, you know, if we're not virtual anymore, I may not be able to go.
Well, so with that in mind, I leave it to Dr. Betty Kay to talk about whether she wants to do it, you know, at the end of her committee meetings, or, you know, from 6 to 6:30, however she wants to do it. That works.
Well, I would say that if there's no interest on any of the members that are here, not sure, you know, exactly where we're going.
It has
with
to
this.
go to the full board.
I'm
Alice.
not sure
Okay.
if I'm interested or not yet. So I'm trying to listen. To the point that Pat was making about possibly having to go in person, weren't we talking about that for only executive or full board meetings, or did I misunderstand?
So lovely, last night, the governor signed extensions of virtual meetings through April 15th. So for right now, based on the vote that we took last time when we had a potential, people said, if we could be virtual, let's stay virtual. So right now we are virtual through April 15th. When and if that order expires and there are no changes, we are fully in person, period. However, there's a hybrid option. So for a working group, it could be done through, if Betty does it, for example, in transportation, there's still the cameras there. You're not voting on anything. You're just bringing the recommendations forward. You can certainly participate remotely because you're not a voting member and you're not required for quorum on a task force or working group.
Okay. Betty, Alice, I will join.
And I just wanted to stick my hand up just to say about the bathroom group, public bathroom group, that I'm also part of it now and working with these folks who are doing a great job. And Community Board 6 has joined us too, which is really cool. So
I don't know if they're officially part of it, but they came to the last meeting. Yeah.
I thought they're wanting to. So it's
our goal is to really
everybody
kick this can down the road, Mimi, who is really gonna, the more boards that we can get in, the more
Yeah.
boards that we can come to a kind of resolution, the better we can solve this problem. If we
Yep.
could end up with all 12 boards on and we all come to the same conclusion, we might make some progress. And that's the
I
goal.
think that's great. And I guess I wanted to say that. They're doing a great job and we are getting Region out there. So it's cool.
All righty.
Betty's on it too.
Anybody have any other questions on this? Perfect. All right, hopefully you received a resolution. It's a comprehensive resiliency project coordination to preserve open space and quality of life. It is an extraordinary benefit that we had for a very long time during some of the large growth periods of Lower Manhattan, that we had the Lower Manhattan CCC. And there was not enough positive things that you could say about having an organization that would really coordinate the construction in the neighborhoods. I mean, it just, having someone who can have a pullback overview look at it and understand that was critical to the success of getting stuff done. It is extraordinarily concerning that the conversations that have been had by EDC and others, there does not seem to be, everybody's kind of chunking for their own piece of the projects. And there doesn't seem to be a space that ensures that we will have open space on our borders, which is where most of our parkland is, as Rosa can tell you in extraordinary detail, especially on the east. At the look of it, the Brooklyn Bridge Esplanade plot project will decimate any kind of access over on the east side. And at the same time, we're talking about the Battery Wharf project being done. Southern Battery Park City is due to break ground this summer in July. We've asked for staging, but we really don't know if they're going to start in Wagner first or in the Battery first. And that'll take you potentially from Brooklyn Bridge to the Jewish Heritage Museum and First Place and Battery as full construction projects. So, I mean, it's mind-boggling to me. With that, Pat goes first, then Justine.
Just two things. So in this reso, we're asking for a CCC type of organization. But when de Blasio first came on, he was talking about having a construction czar, someone that would look over the entire city. And I don't know whatever happened to that proposal. And do you think we'd have better? I mean, I don't know. We don't know, but it might be better for us to be advocating to get that construction czar for the whole city instead of just our little piece of the pie.
I'm happy to accept a friendly amendment that says that the idea would be great to expand, but even so, it needs to be overview for what we're talking about for the resiliency projects to ensure the public realm. But I'm happy to have that as a whereas.
Yeah, so I'm proposing that, but also we don't want to just have, if we do get an LMCCC type of agency, we don't want them to just be looking at the resiliency projects. We want them to also do what the LMCCC used to do, which was to also look at all the construction projects that are still going on in our community.
Well, the interesting thing is, I'm not sure that we can get that based on, that's a whole different thing. Really what we're talking about here is the public space, right? And having parks to go to and open space to go to. Yes, we do want that for everyone. Somebody who will organize with Con Ed and make sure they're not ripping up, I don't know, let's say Worth Street 14 times for each different agency. Yes.
While something else is going on at the same time that will interfere, so you can't get anywhere. You have grid locked. Yeah.
Absolutely, I understand that, but that's not what this particular one is tagged to, open space. And especially as we're coming out of the pandemic or back in, depending on where you want to look at it, it's very much tagged to open space and public realm, because that seems to be something that no one is looking at. And don't worry, it'll just be a little while, is government speak, and you just don't know. I look and said, the Koenig Spear was only going to be sat for a little while, and that was 20 years. So that's why this is important, because I can't imagine not having any shoreline access for 10 years. Justine, you're next.
Thanks, Tammy. I sent an email, but I sent it close to the meeting time, asking, and you may have answered it,
I
but
did.
asking to have South End Avenue added, and you're saying that project, and you're saying you can't because it's not about open space.
That project is not a resiliency project. It is a construction project about traffic safety and DOT.
Yeah.
So it doesn't fit in the purview of what we're talking about for preserving open space. In fact, that particular project is looking to add more open space with wider sidewalks. So it's sort of the antithesis of what we're talking about.
All
And
right.
it's kind of related more to what Pat's like, we should have
Yes.
a general one.
So
And-
yeah, if there's a way to do the friendly amendment, I would support that, but I'm gonna leave that to your wordsmithing.
I would not put that in this because we're talking specifically about open space and resiliency projects in the parks. On the outskirts, particularly. Sorry. All right, any other hands up? Okie dokie. Seeing no other questions, I'd like to call the question. Do I get a second?
Second.
All right, we'll do vote by affirmation, nice and fast. Assuming everybody's a yay, are there any no's? Are there any, hearing none? Are there any abstentions? Hearing none in a hot second, are there any recusals? Awesome. All right, motion passes. Thank you very much. We move into the next item because again, I'm trying to roll fast as I can. Filling the position of discretionary action consultant. Jen is no longer with us. Beta has not been able to fill the position. And so, Lucian?
Sorry, I was filling in the vote sheet. Yeah, so in the meantime, we're gonna give Beta more time. Obviously, they are trying, but we're not going to wait. We have a short and medium term strategy in place. In the short term, we are going to turn around the description and put them out to different networks to see if we can find candidates in the meantime. So what I'll be doing is I'll be sending out the consultancy description to a number of universities, planning networks for the universities. I'll also send it out to the board members if you all want to turn it around and send it through any of your networks. We'd appreciate it. There'll be contact information on the posting. If someone sees it, they're interested, they'll know who to speak with. If we have a deluge of interest, which would be great, then we'll look to the personnel committee to meet and go through some of these candidates. If it's much more narrow, we'll probably be able to work through it with leadership or administratively in the office level, because what we really want to do is get somebody in place quickly. We actually have a candidate now that we're looking at who's seems to meet a lot of the qualities that we're looking for, but we just have to make sure that they can fit it in with their other responsibilities. But regardless, we'd like to have a pool of interest in case we need to backfill again. So the idea is to keep this position filled all the time. So with that, if there's any questions, please do not hesitate to ask.
Hot diggity, I don't see one question. Goodness gracious, that works. Committee highlights, let's rock and roll. We'll start with Trisha first.
Hi, everybody. So we worked on our the Harbor School, which we went out there today. Actually, we're just full court press on, pun intended, on advocating for what was promised, which was a full-size gym and at least a dive pool that can satisfy the needs of their programming that they've waited 12 years for. As you might remember, they came back to us. They have still yet to send the plans The SCA has sent us emails saying what they intend to do. And what they intend to do is stack a undersized pool and an undersized gym on top of each other in the courtyard of Building 515 on Governor's Island. It's unbelievable, really. It's 40 feet wide, which means both of the facilities would not satisfy any sort of regulation situation. So we did a walkabout with the elected officials today, Alice and Tammy, and Lucian all joined, which was great. And we had a terrific walkthrough with Chris Marte and Charles Fall. So we hope to get somewhere by forcing a meeting with the SCA and the trust. So that's my big news.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was one of the things I will say that came out was if you get everybody can go to Governor's Island on a beautiful day. I will say it's highly appreciated if you go out there on a not beautiful day. It was cold, but it was very appreciated. All right, moving along. Thank you very much. Paul, you're next. And yes, I'm going completely out of order. I'm just rolling.
I'm sorry, I've got to leave. Can I go next?
Oh, Pat. Yeah, sure.
I normally don't have to do this, but I have to leave.
Go
So we
for it.
had our meeting last night. There is not much to say. We have nothing controversial. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. We have a reso that we are going to bring before the full board about cobblestones in Tribeca and the fact that the cobblestones are in disrepair. They were laid in 2012. And one of the issues that came up is that the cobblestones are not, the cobblestones make it impossible for several types of people to not be able to use those streets. You know, if you have a disability, if you have, if you use a motorized wheeled vehicle, even bicycles. And so part of the committee actually proposed that those cobblestones be paved over and no longer be cobblestone streets, which I'm sure some of our community will have a problem with. So we may actually have a controversial reso tomorrow. We'll see. I mean, next Tuesday. We'll see.
All righty.
Okay.
Thank you very, very, very much. Sorry that
I'll
we're fighting
see-
cobblestones so many years later, but here we are. Paul, back to
I'll see
you.
everybody next week.
Okay, we had a good meeting, covered a number of topics. We got a good education about what the Coast Guard is doing with their building at the Battery. I could report more on that Tuesday. We were introduced to some new vice presidents at Hudson River Park. They're working on the estuarium design. They got responses to the RFP. And the playground is moving along. We had a good discussion on Brooklyn Bridge banks, and that included some students and the principal from Murray Bertram High School. So that was good. They were good students, and it was good to see these young people engaged and interested in trying to improve conditions for their fellow students and for the community as a whole. So that was nice. And finally, we did do a resolution dealing with the issue of the mayor has proposed a $60 million budget cut in the parks budget. This was on the heels of when he ran for office saying no, he wasn't going to cut their budget. In fact, he was committed to dedicating 1% of the city's budget to the Parks Department moving forward. So we also had a group called New Yorkers for Parks there, and they're a citywide group advocating on these issues. So the committee unanimously passed a resolution urging the city and city council and mayor to rescind those cuts and to, in fact, support moving forward the 1% in the budget for parks. That's it.
Thank you so much, Paul. Dr. Petty K, anything hot topic for you? And after Betty, I'll do Justine.
No, there's nothing. It's a hot topic.
Woo! Justine.
Justin, I'll be quick, but not that quick for a change. Yeah, so we had a really contentious meeting, actually. No resolutions, but we first talked about the ground rent in Battery Park City at the Battery Park City Committee. Pamit Serrano did his presentation that he had given at the Battery Park City Neighbors Association. He and Nick Spordone went into it, and it was kind of fun. It also prompted, which I'm not sure how many of you have seen it, but the Battery Park City Authority had written a op-ed in the Downtown Express that they then proceeded to mail to every condo owner in Battery Park City. And it is, as you made me laughing. Yeah, so I'll summarize it for you just to say that basically, oh man, wait, I lost it. They're saying, and they're giving lip service to the fact that they're trying to find affordability for homeowners and give us some protection. And they're hiding behind this mantra of fiscal responsibility. And they don't define it. But at the end of the day, they are still stonewalling us, and they're refusing to respond to the Homeowners Coalition proposal, or the Battery Park City Neighborhood Association proposal, which is even more dramatic than the Homeowners Coalition's proposal. So that was fun. And then we went from that to South End Avenue and the South End Avenue redo. And part of that was that we agreed to disagree, that there needs to be a soft reboot, because in the time from 2016, when the Battery Park City Authority presented to the Battery Park City Committee and got the approval and went through, the whole point of it, as Tammy said earlier, was for traffic calming measures. Since then, we've gotten a stoplight, a street light at Rector Place. They've added some stop
But this
signs.
is going to come back, right?
Oh, yeah,
this will be another conversation. Okay.
It'll come back. It's going to be controversial, but it'll come back. So right now, no resolutions, because we said we're going to come back and talk about it. And
okay.
That's all.
We're going to do Alice and then Jason.
Hi, yeah, just a reminder to please come on Monday if you're interested in environmental protection. The Battery and the Wagner Park area, Southern Battery Park City resiliency. I think, Justine, I'd love to call on you to get your folks that are part of the neighborhood association to start coming to these meetings, because this is pretty critical information, and it's, probably good to have it happen once, and that's where it happens. So
that'd be nice.
Yeah.
They want me to invite you to a meeting they're having.
I'm aware of it. Yeah. And I could, we'll
You
talk
took care
about
of that,
that.
Justine.
But anyway, so that's one thing. So that's a really important meeting. I mean, we're basically going to start to see Wagner Park,
And
and
that's
the
Monday's
pavilion.
meeting, right?
That's Monday's meeting at the Environmental Protection Committee. And the only other thing is to remind you all that on Sunday, this Sunday at 1:00 is the rally for the jail. This is, again, probably one of the most important, critical, sort of initiatives going on in our community, which is to build a $2 billion jail in a place where there is one. So I really would ask that everyone at some point, if you haven't before, go over into this area and really understand what's being discussed in the jail that's there and what's being proposed, and also go ahead into Columbus Park where the rally will happen and take a look around and see what really is going to happen to this neighborhood. I know very few people live there in the Civic Center. In fact, I would say that some of the data that we were listening to tonight would be great to incorporate more of the Civic Center area. But in any case, it's just something that I think we really want to just keep at, and we've had some traction from what I understand in the mayor's office about maybe putting this on pause. So I'm hopeful that we can still go forward on it. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Jason.
Hi.
Hey.
I know that the people in the Seaport want to be included in this cobblestone, fight for safe cobblestone streets. So please think of us and other landmark districts. We didn't have anything really controversial. we also had another meeting that seemed very light to not attended by any public people, which seems to be a theme that's we've had in our landmarks meetings. We used to have a lot of public input. So, we went through a sidewalk issue where we got our applicant to like do a whole relook at it and do it the right way, historically correct. So that was a real nice victory for everybody on West Broadway and Staple Street. And then we had a rooftop addition on Reed Street that was not controversial. We didn't hear any neighbors, complaining about blocking windows like we used to, but and we just, we figured it out. It was a pretty decent proposal and simple resolution that you guys will see, and they're due
Perfect.
tomorrow, as you know.
Please. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Did I miss anybody?
Of course.
Oh, gee, you think? Susan, you always have the controversy, so hit me. What you got?
As a matter of fact, it was almost smooth sailing. So next month will be controversial. This month was just, little testy things, but nothing terrible. So we seem to be okay.
Well, remember, the most controversial ones always go first at the full board. So
now we seem to be all right this month. It
all right.
was kind of a delight.
There you go. I love that. Thank you very much. So I think we're all set with committee highlights. Thank you, everybody. We were prepared to go hybrid in person. As of tonight, we just to give everybody an update so you know what to think about as we look ahead. We circulated, I think last month, the borough president's guidelines on meetings, and basically you are at the behest of where you hold the meeting. So when we are in the community board offices for a meeting, DCAS, which is the landlord of the building, has building rules for how they want meetings conducted. And that includes if a member of the public is attending the meeting, everybody has to wear a mask. We are all members of the public. So when we hold meetings at the community board office, it'll be mask meetings until the building policy changes. Our full board meeting, we had tentatively held Pace because we need to be at a location that will have incredibly great Wi-Fi so we can make sure that the owls work. And we were just getting through working out what their mandates were when the governor around yesterday. So we have them on hold for April. Ideally, that's where the full board meeting will be. And if things work the way we think they will, we will be virtual until April 15th, which takes us through a large proportion of the meetings for the month. And then we will be back in a hybrid mode. When we go back to hybrid, voting board members need to be in the room to vote. And we do need quorum. There are 4 of our lovely board members who have chosen not to reapply. Half of them will be leaving us at the end of this month. And the other 2, I am waiting to hear from. Hopefully they will be able to stay on. We will not get new board members assigned until earliest is potentially April. So with that, that is everything that I can tell you for right now for my chair report. I see 2 hands up. We're going to go Lucian and then Justine.
Thanks, Tammy. About the remote meetings and open meetings law, I think that it's important to acknowledge that there should be a conversation that will begin soon in the state, probably after this budget passes, about reforming open meetings law. I think a large part of why the governor saw it fit to extend at the really the last minute to extend another month. There was a big push, principally by Manhattan Borough President Levine and State Senator Brad Hoylman. They had an op-ed in the Daily News, which was very, very well written, and I think definitely captured the points that we've been making for so long, and that is we don't want to be fully remote, but we do we do think that we've earned the flexibility to have a meeting environment where, some members can be remote if they need to be. Certainly, there are lots of benefits of being in person, and but allowing some amount of the members to be remote when it's prudent will allow us to always have the right size meeting room. It will allow us to really just maximize the number of people who are able to join us every time and solve so many of the issues that we've run into since the inception of community boards. So I think that I encourage everyone to continue reaching out to your state elected officials and pushing for open meetings law reform. That this is a hugely important matter, and it's going to have such a huge impact on the voices that are able to join us, and really just the nature and the reason that we exist here. And that's to bring all the voices in and provide a forum for those voices to discuss. So I know you all get it. I just had to get it out there. But thanks to everyone who's been advocating, and I think that we're just almost there and embarking on the next exciting chapter of how community boards work and meet. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Lucian. Justine.
So I just have a question because I just saw that I got an email from the borough president's office inviting me to participate in an interview, group interview, to get reappointed. Is that the norm? Everybody's getting that?
I got one
That's
too.
yep.
Everybody.
That's how
I got one
that's how they
too,
go.
Justine.
All right,
I'll-
just checking.
I'll ask if they mean for reappointees to have to go through group interviews.
really.
It
I
may
think they
be-
do if everybody
I think
got one.
they
That's why I
do.
was checking.
Yeah,
I
They
think
do.
they want
I
to
had to
see
go
us.
through it. I had to go
didn't
through
get
it.
it.
Me
What's
too.
this?
Oh wait, did I get one? Maybe I'm not getting reappointed.
There you go. Did you
I-
get one?
I think
I didn't get one.
I think that it could be that this office doesn't have the same depth of knowledge of all the members, and so maybe they need to do at least one just to have a baseline on everyone. And it's a good way for them to meet everybody in person at least once. But I will inquire
It's
a little bit
remote,
more about the
I would
process.
imagine.
Yeah, it's remote.
March.
It's
Is it
remote.
remote?
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks, Mimi. Can I go now?
Yeah.
We
May
are,
I?
we,
Mother,
we are,
may I?
we are calling it a close. It is 7:19. Thank you, everybody. If you have any other questions about Harbor,
you.
because we were out there today, I'm happy to hang on for 5 minutes after the meeting closed just to give information.
Sorry,
right,
I
if
can't
not-
be there.
Thanks,
Alice.
Tammy.
Meeting
Good night,
adjourned.
all.
Closing it down.
Woo! Bye.
Bye.